Join us at Glossy's Beauty and Wellness Summit from November 11th through 13th in Napa, California. Influential beauty and wellness leaders will meet to discuss strategies and pain points, discover innovative tech, and ultimately make valuable business connections through one-on-ones and casual networking. For a limited time, we're offering $200 off with promo code GBS24, no spaces. Again, that's GBS24 with no spaces. Go to glossy.co/beauty summit for more information and to secure your pass today.
Hello and welcome back to the Glossy Week in Review podcast. I'm your host, senior fashion reporter Danny Parisi, and I'm here with our editor-in-chief, Jill Manoff. Hello, Jill.
Hi, good morning. How are you?
I'm good. It's the last big week of Fashion Month. What a marathon it has been. Paris Fashion Week is happening right now, which we will talk about as our first topic of the day. And then we'll also take a little bit of time to talk about Telfar and their decision to start selling real leather bags, which I've never done before. And finally, we're going to look at Stitch Fix and their recent earnings and sort of what it says about the future of that company and that whole business model. But let's start with Paris Fashion Week. So as I said, it's the last big week. We had New York, then we had London, then Milan, and now Paris. It's always very busy, but always very fun. I wanted to talk about a couple of the shows out of Paris today. The two that I was looking at in particular were Dior and Saint Laurent, Yves Saint Laurent, which I feel like were kind of compared in a lot of commentary on the week. Do you want me to go first, Jill, or do you want to?
Yeah, jump in. What did you think?
Okay. So I'll start with the Dior show. I thought something that I thought was cool about it was there was kind of this focus on athleticism and strength. A lot of people noted the comparisons to like the Paris Olympics, which were just there. And they had an archer shooting arrows like down the runway, which I thought was very cool. And kind of a lot of like sporty, kind of like grittier pieces. I saw some kind of criticism of that. The AP had a review where they basically were saying the classical elegance of Dior and this like kind of sporty, gritty, urban designs didn't really mesh. I don't really agree, I think, but there was that. And then Vanessa Friedman from the New York Times, who was recently on this podcast, had a good take on it, noting the fact that it was like kind of focusing on female power and like strength. And then aside from the archer, all of the women were like normal, like very skinny models. And the woman shooting the arrows was like the only person with an athletic build.
Yes. That's something to note. I saw some of those same criticisms with the lack of diversity among the models, which I would agree. And yes, kind of moving away from the Dior DNA. Like, does this fit? Are you trying too hard to go for Gen Z or the young shoppers? Somebody on Instagram was saying, it might be I Deserve Couture, our friend there, but it might have been like, does she know the designer Maria Grazia Curie?
Curie, I think.
Thank you. Does she know like any look except Grecian? She did a lot of the gowns with the gladiator sandals, which I would agree too. I mean, I would also agree that it's a departure from what we're used to seeing from Dior. I mean, the whole opening segment, I know it was inspired by Olympics and this kind of classic Dior. Is it called the Amazon dress? Amazon. And I get it, but like I was like, is this all swimwear? Is it a leotard? Like, where are we wearing this getup? It almost had like reminded me of Calvin Klein or of one of those very minimalist kind of underwear focused brands. But yeah, I didn't love from Dior. But I know that they're kind of thriving in the States, which I worked on a story this week about Louis Vuitton's bags. And I was looking back at their latest earnings and just interesting that their fashion, LVMH's fashion and leather goods division, they said Dior is actually doing better in the States, where it's kind of the other way, compared to Louis Vuitton, where it's kind of the other way, where Louis Vuitton is thriving in China. So there's kind of some evening out of those two brands. But I would think that Louis Vuitton would be like far exceeding Dior. I thought that was shocking. But anyway, I feel like they had maybe not something to prove, but like they have to maintain that momentum. So I was disappointed, I would say.
Yeah, no, I think you're not alone in that. I think a lot of people felt it was sort of a odd departure. There was also an exciting moment during the show when someone from PETA jumped up on the runway with a sign that said "fuck feathers," which was, I don't think there was any feathers on the runway.
I don't think so either.
But I think I think it was in reference to a Dior thing, which is that they made a dress that Lady Gaga wore at the Paris Olympics that was made with ostrich feathers. So it was targeted at Dior. I just don't think there was any feathers. Like, so probably if you didn't remember that Lady Gaga thing, you probably were like, what the hell are they talking about? But I actually think it's interesting. A lot of designers and some entire fashion weeks like don't allow feathers from like wild birds, which would count ostrich feathers. So like Berlin Fashion Week, I don't think you can use like feathers from wild birds anyway. So it's effective in that it got me thinking about something that I did not consider before. Again, it is funny that there were no feathers actually on this runway, at least as far as I saw.
Did you see the stripes where it was like 7 stripes? Somebody commented, don't calm down, Adidas, it's 7 stripes. But there were those athletic stripes all over too, which also seemed a departure for the brand and also seemed kind of safe, which I think I thought that was kind of a theme. And I know that there are a lot of great stories out there about moving on from streetwear and fashion starting to look like fashion again. And I would agree with that. But like for this show, and we're going to talk about Saint Laurent, I feel like they both felt like they honored old designs that were kind of iconic for the brand. And it was kind of reverting back to what we know sells and what we know works. And sales are down. The economy's not great. I feel like there's not a lot of risk taking. We've seen track pants with the blazer at other shows before. We don't maybe need to see it again.
Yeah, I think the combination of like sporty, like streetwear with luxury feels like it's from a couple of years ago. Like that feels like that was no longer novel. The Saint Laurent show definitely had a different approach though. And again, Vanessa Friedman kind of pointed to both of these shows as like taking on like female power in different ways. And for Dior, it was like physical strength and athleticism. And I think Saint Laurent was much more like, to use this loaded term, like girl boss, like CEO kind of corporate outfits, shoulder pads and ties and suits, a lot of menswear inspiration. And then obviously very like 70s and 80s. A lot of the looks kind of looked like stuff that Yves Saint Laurent himself wore, like the big chunky glasses and everything. So definitely like looking back a little bit and kind of a very different approach from Dior and much more like classic luxury fashion, not as much like sport or urban or street kind of influence.
Yeah, just like those stories about moving on from streetwear, it was wild that like a series of suits like felt so fresh and exciting to me. Like I was like geeking out. I was like, I love this. So cute. Yeah. And yeah, Bella Hadid was back on the runway, I think after 2 years was reported, but she was part of that segment of suit with the pumps, like classic pumps for shoes. And yeah, just traditional accessorizing, glasses, ties. Again, reflecting on old styles, and less smoking is what Yves Saint Laurent is known for. So it's just, again, it's not like the most innovative thing. And maybe just the timing of it all made it feel fresh. And when we talk about Stitch Fix, like I was going to talk about how like one of the private labels they're starting is on women's workwear. And, people are going back to work, and maybe designers are taking note that people want more beyond the athleisure, even though Dior did not take note.
Yeah. Well, and the tailoring thing is interesting. I actually noticed a lot of it's been noted before, but like a lot of tailoring, a lot more interest in suiting across all of Fashion Month. Like the John Varvatos show that I went to in New York Fashion Week, lots of tailoring. The Philip Plein show from the other day, when I talked to him, he was saying that tailoring is a big part of their business and making a huge comeback. So it definitely seems like it's interesting when things are moving away from traditional fashion for so long. It's like we're seeing like streetwear on the runway and like, boring. And then we just see like a suit and we're like, ooh, fresh,
Right. Everything is recycled. But yeah, hopefully this works to the brand's advantage. YSL or Saint Laurent down for the first half of the year for 2024, 9%. And I'm working on a story next week, preview. We have this whole series of luxury stories and features. I'm talking about the state of luxury e-commerce. And it's largely looking at like retail partners and what's working versus what's not, considering everything that's happened with Matches and Farfetch and how My Teresa is thriving. But interesting to see that in the first half of the year, Saint Laurent had down, direct sales were down only 6%, which is still something, but wholesale revenue fell 25%. And that's what we're seeing kind of across the board. So I don't know that they did anything like selling off the runway this week, but hopefully I think that would have been smart.
Yeah. Cool. Let's talk about Telfar. Very interesting decision they announced this week, which is they're sort of known for their accessible luxury, affordable bags, direct to consumer. And then this week they announced that they're going to start selling their first bags made from real leather. Most of their bags, I think, up to now have been vegan leather, aka polyurethane. But their new bag is called the Carry, and it's going to be from real leather. It's going to be priced higher. I think it goes up to like almost $1,000. And it's going to be sold in addition to all their like regular direct channels, also in a pop-up in Selfridges. And I thought this was really interesting for multiple reasons. But like we see a lot of brands moving from leather to non-leather and rarely see brands starting from non-leather and moving into leather. Just feels like that's kind of the opposite of the trend for many years now. The other thing is like, it kind of feels like just the opposite of Telfar in many ways. It's like they're known for non-leather affordable bags sold direct to consumer. And now it's like, this is real leather, expensive and sold in Selfridges. It's like the complete opposite of what they're...
Only in Selfridges, like good luck.
Kind of ambiguous. It says they're debuting the bags at Selfridges.
Yeah, maybe it is only for like a short time, and then it will be on their site, which would probably make sense.
But it does feel like the total opposite kind of their business model in a lot of ways. And it's kind of like there were not as many brands like doing exactly what Telfar was doing. So they kind of like could stand on their own. And now they're going to be right alongside like lots of other luxury brands at this, like handbags at the same price in the same store, sold in the same way, made from the same material. So that's kind of like, I don't know, that's almost like anti-differentiation a little bit. Not to say it's like a bad idea. It's just surprising to me, you know?
It's surprising to me. And it will be interesting to see if the Telfar shopper goes there because it's a big leap. 4 times the amount of the non-leather styles, which were originally 150 to 257 was reported. And I haven't been on the site to see what's live now. But somebody who buys a $257 bag for the large version likely will not buy a $960 bag. And do they care? They want the brand. I don't know. I heard from our team that there was like quality issues and maybe some like peeling of the leather. And if there are, that's something. But we talked about like my story on the Neverfull. Like a lot of customers don't actually care if it's leather. Like the Neverfull bag that's iconic is canvas. I at one point bought a Stella McCartney Falabella, I think it's called, bag from The Real. She doesn't use leather right now. That's selling for $1,500, which I mean, you would think more if Telfar is selling leather bags for the first time for almost $1,000. And I did a little bit of poking around to some of these accessible bags and buzzy bags and to kind of compare price points. Brandon Blackwood, which is totally different. It's, I would say, slightly less buzzy, sorry, Brandon, than Telfar, but he's selling a cowhide leather large tote for $500. Puppets and Puppets has had some recent problems, but their leather kind of viral cookie bag is $500 to $600. Uniqlo had that viral bag for $20, which
for $20, yeah,
swept the nation. And then Open, which we talked about, I think that's how you say it, that we talked about, is it like closing or is it not? They're buzzy bags they're leather, I believe. Anyway, I don't know. They're $180 to $340. The fact of the matter is that's a huge price point. And the Coach big bags that are viral now, the Brooklyn bag, $500. The Empire bag, the huge one, is $1,600, but the kind of medium size is only $700. So anyway, when you just kind of look at the space, it seems like that kind of a leap with the economy as it stands, it seems too risky. I feel like maybe the price point didn't have to be quite that high. I would prefer personally to see it like, I think it would have been a better bet for it to top out at $600 or $700. But luxury shoppers continue to shop.
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you think?
I just looked it up and Open is leather and it's sold for like $375 or $400 for some of their bags. Yeah, I agree with you. It's like, we've talked about how luxury brands, when the economy is kind of like tightening as it has been, they go after like the more valued customer, who's the more affluent customer who spends more. And like I could see that here, but I feel like that's not who Telfar has traditionally targeted. And also like you said, I don't know if people really care if it's like leather or if like the brand name, I think, sells it a little bit and the design. So if you're someone who just wants a Telfar bag and there's like the $200 one or the $960 one, like which one are you going to go for? Like if all you care about is just the name. So yeah, it's definitely a little bit of an odd choice to me.
I thought it was interesting that they like came out with a statement about like what the new bag is. Am I like, I don't know, like an untrained eye or something in fashion? Because it was like a study on restraint and like the talking about like the details. And I'm like, it looks like the same bag except leather and maybe larger. Anyway, just saying, I don't think it's a large leap in terms of design.
Well, the way brands talk about their own product is always very funny to me. They're like reading in all sort of like it defines elegance or whatever. And I'm like, it's just
white
looks
shirt.
like a bag to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But actually, you mentioned Stella McCartney, and I was going to say on the topic of like leather versus real leather, which I don't think Telfar has ever sort of like marketed the fact that it's not real leather for like a sustainability or like anti-cruelty reason. Like I think they've mostly talked about it as like an accessibility, affordability thing. So it's like, I don't think it's like hypocritical or anything for them to start selling real leather because they've never sold it as like, we'll never touch real leather for ethical reasons. That's not been their thing. But I do think Stella McCartney is a good example of a brand that can sell a non-leather bag for luxury prices and still kind of like have it all work. And like Stella McCartney bags are around $1,000, kind of like the same price as the new Telfar bag. Like I feel like it's doable. And we talked a little bit about the idea, like if you're elevating your brand and like you want it to be luxury, does it have to be leather? Like does leather denote luxury? And like you were saying the other day, no, obviously, because there's Stella McCartney, there's the Neverfull bag, which is canvas, I think, or what is that made of?
Yeah, it's canvas. Well, they just came out with a new bag for $3,000. That is, You can turn it inside out and one side is leather. And they're trying to like, the word is they're answering consumer demand. So,
Well, what do you think then? Does leather leather obviously has an association with luxury, like through like LVMH and everything. They've always prized their leather working and stuff. But I feel like there's brands that are clearly luxury or products that are clearly luxury that are made from other materials. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Maybe I would say he didn't have to go there. But the fact that he did, maybe like he's launching at the same time, like they talked about a new, I guess like outerwear. They're doing some clothes and some outerwear with Wilson leathers. And so maybe like, I don't know if there's new like investment or even if they need investment to glow up, to have a glow up. This is a CFDA award-winning designer for accessories. And maybe like if the Row is selling their bags for like a tote for $2,600, like why not Telfar on the flip side? It's so, I don't know. I guess we'll see how it does, but it'll be interesting to see that where hopefully there are still offerings for this more accessible shopper, but maybe that's not the brand's direction. Maybe they're selling accessible socks like Gucci, you know? So
yeah, we'll see. Let's move on to our last topic, which is Stitch Fix. So Stitch Fix is kind of in sort of a rough spot. They just had earnings this week. Their revenue is down, I think, 18% over last year. And their number of active clients fell by over 600,000, down 19% from the previous year. They did increase their net revenue per client by a little bit, but then they lost like so many clients that I think it was a net negative. The interesting thing to me about Stitch Fix, and we talked about this a little bit off air, is just like the business model and the like having your style kind of picked out for you and it's just delivered and you kind of like just wear whatever you get seems so strange to me. Like it had a moment in like the, I guess, late 2010s, but it feels like, I'm like, who would want that? Like, I don't know anyone personally that I know of who uses anything like that. And I think a lot of Stitch Fix competitors have sort of dropped out. Like Nordstrom, I think, abandoned their version of that. But clearly, I mean, they have like 2.5 million active users at Stitch Fix. So like, it's not nobody. That's like a good size city worth of people who use Stitch Fix. But I wonder if that business model has much longevity, you know?
Yeah, I'm with you. This CEO is a year in. And so really he has his work cut out for him from Macy's, from Walmart. And so they're in step one of this plan. Every CEO comes with a plan. So they've just had their rationalization period, which a lot of cost cutting went down, but it's close their UK business, close some fulfillment centers. They said, right size our corporate headcount, making big changes. And then next they plan to build, next they plan to grow. But yeah, is that customer there is your question, which I agree. I do know somebody who works with us, a boy, a man, but that uses Stitch Fix. And I actually think that he told me that he no longer uses it, but he's not going to the office as much. We work from home. So that makes good sense. I think that these 2.5 million shoppers, let's dig in. Who's to say, but it is somebody who's busy and is not a fashion person because they don't care about brand. Because there was all of this chatter on their latest earnings. Oh, well, the earnings, that's why we're talking about it, about expanding the private label. And there are different brands that they're bringing. One is focused on contemporary workwear for women. One is on trend right styles. I don't know how that differs from what they're already offering. And they're also expanding some existing private labels. And it currently makes up, I want to say it's 50% of the product mix. That's huge. So this is somebody who doesn't care about brand, which is, again, not probably somebody like us. I do care. I don't know why I care. Anyway.
No, I think that's exactly it. Is if you some people take a lot of joy in styling themselves and don't want to just wear whatever is handed to them. Some people do, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I think the fashion enthusiast probably doesn't have a lot of use for something like this. I mean, maybe they do. I don't know. Do you have more visibility into the beauty side of it? Are beauty kind of boxes in the same way still a thing? Is that popular on that side?
They're not. They're falling off. Well, there's still FabFitFun, which is a combination of fashion, beauty, wellness. And there are still versions out there and people are buying into them. How Stitch Fix differs, which, you don't have to get a box every month. Basically you sign up, you can set up a cadence where it's every 3 months. You can do that if you want, or it can be one-off thing. You have to pay $20 each time that you place an order. You cannot, which every other box brand like Birchbox at one time, decided we're also going to launch e-commerce. You can go on the site and just buy something if you want. Stitch Fix doesn't have e-commerce. It only has this service. So you pay $20. They've just expanded as of the earnings announcement from sending you 5 things to their customer once more. So now they're sending you 8 items. And then whatever you buy, they deduct that $20 box fee. So it kind of plays into your purchase, which is interesting. But so there are some tweaks to the service. They're letting more accessibility, more transparency around the stylist that these people are working with, who they are. I think there's little photos around them now to make it more personal. I don't know. Where I maybe see potential is everybody's doing this anyway, without a stylist picking the items, but choosing 8 items, maybe keeping 1, sending everything back. And all these retailers and brands are starting to get hip to that, and it's hurting them, and they're putting all these fees around it. And if you're not paying anything really, the $20 is being deducted from your purchase. If you do strike it hot and you find stuff, then great. Maybe it will start to make sense as these fees start getting higher and higher.
Yeah. The other thing is that Stitch Fix said that they don't expect to see growth until 2026, 2 more years. And the new CEO that you mentioned, Matt Bayer is his name, was saying, turnarounds take time and we need time to sort of implement all these changes. And we've got a multi-stage process, which is all true. But I'm also are investors going to be patient, which they're not famously known for? I don't know.
Oh my gosh, there are all these reports out there, they're headed for penny stock territory. And if you look at the prices of the stock, as high as it was reported, $114 in January 2021. Stock has not traded with a $10 handle since May 2022, not above $6 since August 2022. Tanked.
Yeah.
Not looking good.
Yeah. And I just like don't know if they'll be able to bring it back, but we'll see. I'm working on, I would like to write a story about this. So I'm going to plug, if anyone listening to this is a user of Stitch Fix or similar kind of like box kind of services, I would love to hear from you. You can email me, danny@glossy.co, or you can DM me. I would love to hear from the people who actually use this service and why. I think that would be great.
And we're sorry we said you're not a fashion person. I'm sure you're very chic.
That's why I say, like, I think my instinct is like the person who would use it maybe doesn't care as much, but maybe that's not true. Like, I don't want to like be dismissive. Maybe there's a very good reason why you would do that.
And maybe Stitch Fix private label is better than anything out there. And we are just, I don't know, in the dark.
True. Yeah, I'm not sure. Anyway, I think that's all the time we have. Jill, thank you so much for talking with me.
Thank you. It was fun.
For those of you listening, don't forget to give us a rating and a review, whether that's on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, or wherever you listen to this podcast, because that helps us out so much. And don't forget to subscribe to the Glossy podcast, because you'll hear interviews with industry insiders every Wednesday and week in review episodes with me every Friday. Jill, do we know who our next guest is?
I do know. It is Alex Assoulin. He is with the publishing company who makes those most amazing fashion books out there. And we talked very in depth about the expansion. They're launching a podcast. They're launching a digital publication. They're launching candles and everything you can imagine that could go in your library. There's even a library service for these rich people that they can come and curate books and deck it out. It's so fabulous. So anyway, it's part of our Luxury Week's content.
Amazing. Well, look out for that. And thank you all for listening.